So what's going on, guys? It's Davidson Baker, staff writer at the MMATakeover.com, and I'm joined today by the former CES Featherweight champion and current UFC Featherweight, Matt the Mangler Bessette. My friend, how are we feeling today?
I'm good, man. The reason I'm laying down right now is because I just put some oil eardrops in because I got some wax buildup and stuff, I guess, because I keep jamming the Q-tip in there. So I can't really hear much out of this ear. My wife is going... But that's why I'm laying down right now. I'm trying to let this stuff work.
How does that come about, do you think? Like, do you know what's causing that?
Honestly, my ear's so jacked up from, all the cauliflower. Of course. Just the shape of it. So it keeps stuff in there longer. So if I drip sweat in there, it stays in there for like a day or so.
Oh, man.
But I use Q-tips a lot, so I'm just like jamming it further and further in. I don't know.
Well,
I'm an over cleaner. I clean a lot, so it feels like I'm like actually doing more good, but I'm doing more bad when I try to clean it out.
Right, dude. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely nothing wrong with being too clean. I mean, I can tell you that. So before we get into talking about your career and you as a fighter, help me out on this, man. When I noticed you taking the fight to fight at UFC 220, and it being the relative home game for you, Connecticut's the stomping grounds, right? Like, you train, you live. What city is it again?
I train in Hartford.
Okay.
I own a gym in Bristol, and I live in Stafford, so I get around.
Cool. And Boston's like an hour and a half away, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
Cool. And what might make or break how I feel about going on in this interview right now is a Boston Red Sox fan.
Hey, I was been born and bred a Yankees fan, man.
Ah! Dang, man. Nomar and Manny were like my heroes when I was like 4. So, because I grew up in Oklahoma.
Nomar. I didn't like Manny. I like Nomar.
It's hard not.
Although Manny was kind of funny.
It's hard to like Manny if you didn't have Manny on your team,
Yeah.
Dang, I whiffed on that one. But anyway, so let's talk some fights, man. First, before we get into any talk about the UFC, I've been a little curious about, how things were going when you were, the CES Featherweight champion, like one of the most respectable and kind of bigger scale regional promotions in the Northeast. So let me just say that I've heard the story about how you were getting ready to think about hanging it up and not sure if you were wanting to continue to put fighting in front of your family, with the exception of if the UFC call-up came, and then obviously it came. Tell me what it was like, though, not only to realize that call-up, but to have that first debut in Boston. And even though it didn't go the way you would have liked, I mean, getting the relative home game that you did, what was the experience like for you?
First off, it was unreal, man. It was what I expected and then some. Mm-hmm. But I didn't have any nerves at all, and I think it's because I knew I was supposed to be there. I felt like I belonged, and it was in my head. I was there years ago.
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of people felt that way.
I was going to be in the UFC cage, so it wasn't something that I didn't have any jitters. It wasn't like, oh my God, am I supposed to be here? Oh my God, look at this. It's another UFC fighter. This guy's 5-1 in the UFC. Can I beat him? I didn't have those thoughts. It was always, I'm supposed to be here. Now it's my time to shine.
Right.
And honestly, it was when I got in the cage, it was just like a guy was really keeping a huge smile off my face at that point. But I was just happy.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I can only imagine. And I would say, like, on the topic of you saying and approaching the fight with that mindset, I'd say a lot of people would have agreed with you at the time, to be honest with you. For guys that make their debuts, definitely not on a standpoint of age, but on a standpoint of tread on their tires. A lot of guys don't have as many fights when they enter the UFC as you did.
No way. And
that leads me into my next question, being that, a lot of guys on those Access TV fight cards, the CES and the LFA, a lot of times those guys win belts and they're out of there. So with that being said, I believe you defended yours twice, right?
Yeah, and I won it and defended it twice.
Yeah.
all within like 10 months time.
Yeah.
So, but that's who I am. I'm an active person.
Of
I'm
course.
not a guy that's like win the title and like hope that more comes along the way. I get out there and I fight. Like I signed up to fight. I'm not going to sit on the sidelines and be a 10-0 guy fighting bums, hoping to get a call up from the UFC. I'm going to fight the guys that I set out to fight, the guys that are supposedly better than me, the guys that are going to test me, guys that are going to make me a better person and a better martial artist at the end of the day. And I get that now. I get it all the time because I always test myself against good guys, but I get it now all the time with every fight, no matter what, in the UFC. So I'm in a good spot, and now it's just half the battle was getting there. Now the other half is staying here. So,
yeah, and
now I'm in the business of staying here.
Absolutely, man. And I'm gonna get to the topic of that in just a second. But the last thing I will ask you about your pre-UFC fight career is what was it like waiting for that call up, man? And especially on the scale of things, Andre Ewell, who just won the bantamweight title in the CES, he didn't even have to defend it, and he's getting ready to go fight Renan Barão in Sao Paulo next month.
Yeah.
So what was that like, man? It was imaginably frustrating, but patience is a virtue. And how'd you get through that?
First, let me give a quick shout out to Dennis Paiva, who fought. Andre.
Yeah, Paiva fought a hell of a fight.
Dennis is very good, man.
Oh yeah.
I think he made one small mistake there at the beginning of the third round by shooting in. And he's very good.
He was winning that fight too.
I thought that Dennis was going to win that fight, and Dennis is just one of those guys he's always been fighting good guys. He started off his career with a sub 500 record.
Yeah. And
he's been kind of battling back ever since. But like you look at his victories, he's got good wins. He's got an outrageous power for a 135er, and he's such a good guy. He's good. He's a good guy. He's a good friend of mine.
Nice.
So there's my quick shout out to him.
He was winning that fight too, by the way, man.
He gets
he
back
was.
into it and rattles off a few victories and then gets looked at for a contender series or something like that.
Cool.
He deserves it.
Yeah, I thought he was winning that fight.
He was. I think he was too.
Yeah.
As far as the call up to the UFC, you touched on it earlier. I was about to hang it up. I was about to retire.
Mm-hmm.
Few people have heard this story already, but I was in my kitchen at the time, or I was in my mother's kitchen with my wife at the time, and we were talking about what's next. For us, for the future, for making money, and I was like, well, CES is coming up soon. I'm fighting for that. She's like, yeah, but we need more. I'm obviously not a person who can just fight. I can do many other things, and on top of that, I have a college education as well. So, like, I'm not just one of those dumb guys that can just fight, and then when fighting's done, you have nothing left.
Oh yeah.
I have a career after fighting. I have a life after fighting.
Awesome.
So we're talking, and long story short, we got to the point where I was like, you know what, it's going to be my last fight. This fight for CES is going to be my last fight, and I'm retiring. And she's like, you don't have to do that. And I'm like, no, I want to, because I want to continue to better myself and better our position as a family. And our conversation left. We're both kind of down in the dumps because we gave a lot into the last 10 years of my career. Both of us did, and to see that we'd end it on these terms, it was sad,
Absolutely.
And then 12 hours later, I get a call from Sean Shelby, and he's like, "Let's do this." And I was like, "Let's do this,
dude."
So pumped.
Dude, tell me what he say, like, at first, like, because I can only imagine, like, being that guy that's on the mend, and you get a phone call, and you see those two area codes. You either get the Houston area code, and it's Mick Maynard, or you get Sean Shelby. You didn't know it was Sean when he first called, did you?
What it was is it actually wasn't a call. He talks to my manager, but what happened first was I think it was Nolan King, I think.
Yeah, no.
Made like a tweet that said Enrique Bartola's opponent, who I forget actually who his opponent was now, dropped out. He couldn't get his visa. and he's looking for a replacement, and Nolan tagged me. And I saw it like a minute after he posted it, and I emailed Sean Shelby myself, and I said, Enrique Barzola can get these hands. And
that's all you said?
That Enrique Barzola can get these hands. And he emailed me back a minute or two later, and he said, don't lie to me. What's your exact weight right now? And when he said that, I knew for a fact that like this fight was mine, because Sean doesn't email you back right away for anything. He won't do it right away.
Right.
He does it in his time because he's got a lot of stuff going on.
Right.
And he also doesn't ever lead you to believe that you're going to get something that isn't coming your way. You know,
of course.
He wouldn't say something like that without insinuating that this fight is going to be mine. So I knew right there that we were going to get this fight. And then after that, I was like, I told him my weight was, I said my weight is 162, but I could be 158 by tomorrow morning, just quitting it, cutting back on a meal or so. I was like 166, but he don't need to know that.
He said don't lie, though, man.
Yeah, I was a little heavier, but I cut. So I went from 166 to 46,
okay,
just 20 pounds in a week, which is way more than I usually do.
Yeah.
But gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, I had to look up because I couldn't remember who the guy was that dropped out either. It was Arnold Allen, the kid from England.
Yeah, it was Arnold Allen.
Yeah, wow, that's crazy. That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about how it's been in the UFC since. And obviously the 0-2 start isn't what you expected and not what anybody desires to do. But I mean, it's not like you're out there getting finished. You know, you're lasting all 15 minutes with these guys and landing good shots. Maybe you probably feel that there's just this hump you got to get over. Like, would that assessment be a correct one?
I don't know if I have an assessment. I can go back and look at what I did wrong and what I can work on. For one, I'm not a judge. And, if I was, I'd be making better decisions than that one judge in my last fucking fight.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, I don't know if I trust judging at the highest level at all.
I mean, I don't know if anyone does.
When Bisping fought Matt Hamill.
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about.
Of course.
When Bisping fought Matt Hamill, I was like, I don't trust judging, and that was years ago. That was 8 years ago or so. But ever since then, it's been sometimes they do the job well, and sometimes they do it terribly. Mm-hmm. And I think they did it terribly in my last fight. But there's nothing you can do. You go out there, you try to do the best you can to try to get the finish. But if you don't get the finish and you don't see it coming, then you got to do everything in your power to sway the judges. And I didn't do enough on one of the judges' scorecards.
So two things I want to say. One, did you watch the Boise card? The Boise, Idaho card?
Who was on it? Probably.
It was Dos Santos and Ivanov. They were the headliners.
Oh. Actually, no, I didn't watch that one. That was one of the only ones I haven't watched in a long time.
In all of my years of watching this sport, there has not been a night where judges as a whole for the entire night were just... I can't even put into words that just fight after fight after fight after fight. You would hear these scores and you'd look at the guy next to you like, what? But regardless, I mean, I actually was just talking to Angelo Reyes earlier about this exact thing, and he's just, it's not a fact of the UFC, it's a fact of commissions, and we might not ever get better judging, unfortunately. And on that topic of judging, I don't know if you remember or put the name to the face that I was, but you and I actually had a brief conversation on Facebook about that last fight, because I actually covered your fight against Steven Peterson for the MMATakeover.com. I was the one that did the recap, and I scored it for you as well. It's a frustrating one, and I actually went back and watched the fight again too, and I think you won the fight.
I thought so too, but whatever. Who cares? Who cares now? Because on paper, that's what matters. But,
I got you, man.
I think that judges don't quite understand the severity of damage and how it should be weighed.
Right.
It should be weighed more. The very first thing that what they say at the beginning of what Mike Goldberg used to say when he's trying to teach the people watching on television how the judges score the fight. They say striking damage is the first thing that they say, right?
Yeah, striking and grappling.
Damage is the first thing that they say. And then the last thing they say is octagon control. And in between that, they say, like, grappling control, whatever.
Right.
But in my mind, how do you, if you're a judge, how do you factor control of somebody's back without damage higher than striking damage standing? I don't quite understand that. Damage has to be weighed, whether I'm doing damage on the ground or standing up. If I'm doing damage, that's got to be weighed number one.
Right.
No matter if a takedown happens with control, it doesn't matter if no damage is happening during that period of time. But here's the thing.
I agree with you.
The reason why guys, or judges in particular, will weigh grappling higher is because it's a definitive act. The takedown, they know in their mind, like, okay, guy A got a takedown, so for sure that has weight to it. But like, if I throw a cross and I hit Steven in the face, there's no way for them to know how much that hurt,
right,
or if it had an effect, or if there's a ringing in the guy's head, or you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It's subjective at that point.
Definitely. I get frustrated a lot, with judges as well. And I mean, I've never been in a fight in my life, man. Like, I gotta be honest with you, so I couldn't even imagine.
Right.
Maybe I should. So now that the debut and the sophomore outing is behind you, and being 0-2 isn't the best place to be in my opinion, and I think a lot of other people's opinion. You should definitely be getting another fight. Have you been informed by the UFC that you are for sure going to get another fight, or what's going on with that?
I haven't been told if I was getting another fight just yet. But after my last fight, I thanked Sean for another fight. It was an honor and this and that. And he said, thanks for being part of a big card. You put on a good show. And he said, I'll be in talks with Chris. Chris is my manager.
Gotcha.
So I don't know what that means. I'll be talking to Chris. I don't know what that means exactly, but
gotcha.
That's all the information that I know right now.
Cool.
Now you know it.
Cool. And if we're hypothetically speaking, let's say that there are works for you to get another fight in the UFC. This is a comeback this year a thing. You want to take a little bit more time off, and if you do want to fight again by the end of the year, do you have a date that you'd kind of circle on your calendar?
I'd like to fight before the end of the year, but I think that's going to be less up to me and more up to Sean if he can, find somebody. Usually, how it is like there's a lot of guys waiting to fight right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's guys on Twitter, Instagram, all this that are like, I want to fight, gotta fight, I want to fight. It's been too long. For me, a week has been too long. I want to fight again. So I can imagine there's other guys out there that want to get into another fight before me that have fought maybe in like March or something like that
right.
deserve a fight before me. So I'd like to get one in before the end of the year, but it's gonna be a maybe.
Right. If you had a genie next to you right now and he granted you the wish to pick any date that you wanted, you got a date in mind?
I don't. Without looking at the lineup of pay-per-views or anything like that.
Gotcha.
Sometime in like early December would be great. My wife says before Thanksgiving because she wants to make sure that I can eat a lot with her family. But
see, right before that would be
because I
like,
never get to eat Thanksgiving.
Oh
like
man.
How long have we been together? 8 years. And in the 8 years or so we've been together, like I think we've probably ate twice.
Oh man.
Thanksgiving with them.
Damn.
So.
The sacrifices you make though for the fight game, man. These things happen. That sucks though. You gotta enjoy. You gotta be able to enjoy things like that. But it's understandable. And I think the cards right leading up to that are like Argentina and Beijing. To be honest with you. So,
fuck yeah, I'll go to Beijing. Are you kidding me?
Beijing.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
That'd be dope.
That's like that's November. That's like the one right before Thanksgiving. That's November 24th. Okay. They got some Chinese featherweights too, so before I let you
Trying to think
go,
about.
before I let you go, and I'd like to thank you again, like for giving me the time to do the interview. You cool with making some, giving me some picks for some upcoming fights?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
All right, man. Next pay per view is obviously headlined by Tyron Woodley and Darren Till for the welterweight title. You leaning towards one particular way on that one?
Yeah, you got to pick the champ on that one. I think Darren makes weight. That's not even a question. I think he makes weight. But I got to pick. I think Tyrone he's too well rounded, and his striking and his ability to close distance quickly and explosively. Even against a guy who's tall, long, and who's really good at keeping the gap. At some point, what comes up behind you is the cage.
Oh yeah.
And when Woodley gets a hold of you, he's very good at taking you down. So, I think that I think it's a slow start for him because, like I said, Darren keeps the gap really well. He's an in and out fighter, kind of like Connor, and he's able to use his reach and his left hand really well. But I think Tyrone figures it out after a few minutes, and then the second round, third round become more Woodley. The longer the fight goes, the more it goes to Woodley's favor, I think.
Oh yeah, I agree with that, 100%. A lot of people are siding with the champ on this one, I gotta say.
Yeah.
So, and then one of the bigger announcements as of late, UFC 230 at Madison Square Garden's got its co-main event, and it's the return of Nate Diaz, man. But he's taking on a guy in Dustin Poirier who is on an absolute tear. Who are you siding for on that one?
Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
You want to leave? I'll leave in 5 minutes, okay? 5 minutes, okay. Sorry.
I record all of them
buddy.
anyway, so I can cut and chop.
Say it again.
Poirier and Diaz.
I don't know.
It's a tough one, man.
I don't know. Diaz is such a thug. I feel like Poirier. I don't think Poirier can finish him.
I don't either.
I think he can win a decision. And it's probably going to be a 5-round fight, correct?
No, co-main event, 3 rounds.
But is it?
At MSG.
All right. Then I'll definitely take Poirier.
Yeah.
If it's a 3-rounder, I'll take Poirier. If it was 5, I'd take Nate. Because I think that Poirier can, land a lot of leg kicks and stay away from the firefight for long enough to win a decision. Nate's probably going to walk away after the 15 minutes, pissed off, throwing up gang signs and stuff at the camera. Because he's like, this guy won't fight me. Nobody wants to fight me. Everybody's on steroids.
That's what he does, man. That's what he does. I mean, did you see where he walked out of the big when they announced when they did the whole thing in LA last week, and they had all of all those guys that are a part of headlining cards all on the stage, and at the end when Dana. It obviously Khabib and Conor aren't there, and Dana says at the end, he's like, we got one more thing to show you, and they play the Khabib-Conor trailer. Nate walked out in the middle of it.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that. I think that might be Nate trying to draw more attention to him.
Yeah.
Put himself in a better position and make money in the future. Make this about me, about me, about me. Kind of what Conor does all the time.
Right.
Makes everything about him so that the people are always talking about him and want to see him more. And the more that the fans want to see the fighter, the more money that they could potentially make in the future. So
it's a simple machine, man. You just kind of
he's working. Nate knows what he's doing.
Hell yeah. So as far as your division is concerned, I think the world was pretty bummed when we didn't get Holloway Ortega at UFC 226. I have a feeling that fight's going to happen before the end of the year. Now, I think they're going to give Holloway ample time, but when it does, I love that matchup. What do you think about it?
I think it's a great matchup. I think Max wins. I think that Ortega has a difficult time against guys who are able to outstrike him and constantly stay mobile on the outside, landing leg kicks, and just being more effective with boxing in general. And Max has perfected that. So I think that's Max's fight to win or lose.
Good points on that one. And 2 more. You got time for just two more quick ones? Is that cool? 2 quick
ones.
We could go 1, and I think we know what that one would be. But
all right, 1.
All right, 1. You got to tell me how you feel about McGregor and Khabib, man. It could be the biggest fight in the history of the sport. Who wins?
I think McGregor is the favorite. And I think so because every fight has got to start standing, right? And Khabib generally leaves his chin up at some point in the fight, especially early on, and he usually tries to leap in. And anytime you leap in against a guy who's a good counterpuncher, especially a guy who has good counterpunching, who is incredibly quick, athletic, and accurate, and it's rough for Khabib. So
I know, man.
I think if Conor finishes it, he's going to finish it early.
Mm-hmm.
I think he can finish it early in the first, early in the second. But as the longer the fight goes, I think the more favors Khabib. So I would say Conor.
Cool, man. Hey, make sure you tell your wife I said thank you for bearing with me. Thank you for bearing with me. I appreciate the time as always, man, and I'll make sure to let you know across multiple platforms when this interview's up.
All right, thanks, buddy.
Thanks, brother.
Take it easy. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too, bro.
Later.